Hello everyone, I'm James. Thanks for joining me this afternoon. Yes, today I'm going to be talking to you all about insects and invertebrates, and the way that I'm planning on doing that is by carrying out part of our summer Naturespace challenge. So what is the Naturespace challenge? I think is a good place to start. What it is it's part of the science of Naturehood, and it's really important for everyone to do it if they can, and it's also a really fun thing to go out and be doing. Don't worry, half of it's indoors, and the other half outdoor. But if you're like me, you're going to be choosing a time when there's a lot of shade in your garden in this weather, because in the sun it's a bit too much. And so you can find the Naturespace Challenge under the Help Our Research tab on the Naturehood platform. And the reason it's really important to do it is partly because it's an extremely fun way to discover the different wildlife that are using your garden, your balcony, whatever your nature space is. And also by submitting that data into the platform, you contribute to research. And our researcher Claire, who a lot of you will have met because she's really good at responding to questions and comments in the live feed, she then takes that information and along with our research team helps to create some kind of ideas of what actually is in people's spaces that can be supporting wildlife and what impact are those different features having. And the aim is that over time we'll gather enough data that we can start setting recommendations and providing insights like this feature has a really big impact, we should make sure that everyone has it, or this one's only effective when it's 10% of spaces in an area are doing it. So we can set those recommendations, give those insights, and that's what you'll be contributing towards by taking part in the Naturespace Challenge. And like I said, it is really fun. It's maybe a bit too hot to be doing it today, but never mind. And yeah, as part of Insect Week, it seemed like a natural place to go. So I'll show you the area that I'm planning on taking part in the Naturespace Challenge in. So you can see here, I've got this tray that I've lined. It's actually kitchen towel, but it's just white paper so that I'm able to see what I'm putting in there. This little pile of bricks that have been here for absolutely ages. They were used to prop up a barbecue a while ago. I can actually really see a couple of things crawling along there. And just this area of, I'll call it lawn, but that seems like a slightly generous term. Our extension of No Mow May has been Don't Mow for quite a long time now. And it's been really exciting because there've been a lot of different wildflowers that have been springing through, and we've been seeing lots of different pollinators, so bees, butterflies, also things like moths and hoverflies coming and visiting those flowers and really benefiting from them. But let's get stuck in. So this part of the Naturespace Challenge is asks you to take about an A3 sized area. So the area I'm working with is roughly going to be here. And the plan is then to properly have a look. So there's a little bit of overhanging tree in this space, so I'm going to be looking in there as well, and just having a proper search through, seeing all the different things I can find, and then going into the platform or using a PDF, so like a tally to see what things I'm finding. So let's get stuck in. Immediately you can see there's a load of woodlice here, and I'm counting. Oh, and a spider as well. So let's try and shake some of you loose into my, so that hopefully I'll be able to give you a bit of a better view. Yes, so you can see some of the woodlice that are crawling around. And woodlice are quite interesting because they aren't insects. And although this is Insect Week, it would be convenient if they're insects. They're crustaceans, so they're more closely related to things like shrimp and crabs and lobsters. And so, yeah, you can see they've almost got that sort of shell around them. Spiders, there's one just along this back edge, but I'm not sure really. And spiders are arachnids, so again, not insects, but you do your best. And spiders are really kind of top predators. They'll be catching other invertebrates, so things like and eating upon them. So let's go back to my brick pile and see what else I can find. See, there's still a couple more woodlice crawling on top. So far, I think I've counted about 10 of them. There's some quite nice big spiders on the base of this brick. And you can see some of their webbing as well. So I think I'm up to 4 spiders. Now I'm trying to be as careful as I can, and of course I'll be putting these habitats back as I found them at the end of this, because I think that in this hot weather especially, these smaller creatures are finding it really helpful to crawl up in these dark spaces where it's a bit more hidden. Now this one there's not quite as much, but there's a couple more spiders. Potentially one of them's a harvestman actually, which is very similar to a spider in looks, but is actually a different, as well as being a different species, it's a different group. Sort of like a fly is quite different from a grasshopper. Okay, and under this final one, oh, loads more woodlice. I think that we're potentially up to 20 woodlice now. I think there's a slug curled up right in one of those holes. You can see it just about there. So that's quite exciting. It's a little bit different. And there's also loads and loads of baby woodlice. Wow. That's really exciting. I'm not sure how well you can see them on the brick, but you can see just sort of very small, clear things running around. Those are baby woodlice. They're also called pill bugs because for some species, they have a habit of curling up into a sort of pill shape when they're disturbed. I'm seeing many more woodlice crawling around under where those bricks were. And a couple more spiders, lots and lots of spiders today. I wasn't expecting that quite as much. Wow, yeah, this must have been a full-on nest. Sorry, I'm not doing great narration because I'm quite excited about all the things I'm seeing. And I guess in some ways that's quite helpful because there is something that I think is intrinsically fun about and seeing what you can find. Some of the other things that you might come across are things like ladybirds. We have a couple of species of native ladybirds, and there's also quite famously the harlequin ladybird, which has been introduced from overseas. And what's quite unhelpful about it is that it has about 100 or so different spot patterns. So really quite tricky to spot. But the unfortunate thing is that as well as feeding on things like aphids, it also feeds on the eggs of native ladybirds, and so can be quite also things like maybe ants. So the most common species you'll have would be black ants. Many queens, and they have a sort of a colony which is mostly males. You can have a couple of queens. It's not like beehives where there's only one. And once each year, for that species at least, and for many species of ants, there'll be a phase where, oh, let's see if I can catch you. Trying to be gentle as I can here. Yes, you can see this little guy. He's just joined in, but he's curled up the spider. That's another one for that tally. I was talking about flying ants, yes. So once each year, there'll be a weekend or a day where a whole species full of ants will take to the wing and it'll be a combination of males and females, and they'll breed and then set up a new colony. And ants can be really, really important because they help to shape our landscapes by being important predators, but also being farming of things like aphids. Sorry, again, looking while talking, not the best combination, it turns out. And that means that they manage the populations of other species, which can have quite a big effect on what is present and what isn't. Oh, I've actually seen some ants in here wriggling around, but they're going to be very difficult to catch. Yeah, other things we might find while we're rummaging around are shield bugs, also called stink bugs. You get a few different color combinations for those. So you can have pied or green, and then a few others as well. Wow, look at that. Just everything going a little bit crazy under these leaves. Obviously trying to avoid the heat. There's a baby centipede. I'm going to see if I can catch it, being quite gentle. Did I get you? No. Okay, I'm going to switch hands. Yes, centipedes. It would be quite exciting if I can get one of them because they're also predators of other insects, and they have really quite powerful jaws. Unlike millipedes, which for the most part are the more vegetarian and friendly versions. of those many-legged creatures, and they're not insects either. You can tell quite easily because they haven't got 6 legs, and all insects do have 6 legs. There's also things to watch out for other invertebrates like snails. This is just a snail shell, but also things like slugs. What they do is they fall into the same category as woodlice in that they're important decomposers. And what that means is that for things like these dead leaves I have and some of this dead grass, they'll help break that down, release the nutrients from it into the soil, so that then more plants can go on to benefit. Wow, so many woodlice. I'm slightly baffled as to how there's this many. And that's the kind of exciting discovery that you can make doing this. Okay, right, I think that's enough rummaging for the time being down there. I'm going to have a look up here in the tree. And so this is a big crabapple, and it's got a climber on it as well. I'm not sure exactly which species of climber. And let's see if I can get close. If you see just here, there's flowers, and they're kind of underappreciated as pollinators. These, I think they're Holifer flies, but the sun is in my eye. But what they will be doing is, just like bees and butterflies, taking some of that pollen and nectar and taking it back to their young, but also passing it on between flowers, so that then the flowers are pollinated, the plant reproduces, just like... Actually, I'm not gonna go into that. It's a little bit off the PG rating. But yes, they can be really, really important for a lot of native species as well. They'll be tied into specific species of insect for their pollination. Orchids are the best example of that, where often an orchid species will be tied to a particular species, and generally bees, that will be the only thing that can transfer their pollen. So if you want to have more orchids in that landscape, then you have to support the bees, and unlikely for them to feed purely on the orchids. So it's other plants that they'll need to support them, but also spaces to live. So often for solitary bees, that'll be things like deadwood. They'll bury in and create a nest. Potentially just sandy banks or bare earth where they might excavate something. And for some of them, something as small as like a dry reed, they'll use that space. They'll crawl in, potentially block it up with a bit of grass to keep their larvae slightly protected. And by doing so, keep feeding them, put in a little parcel of food, and then the new bees will come up. So it's not always hives, and actually honeybees are quite unusual in forming hives. Where we get our honey from is the only species that gives us that honey is honeybees. And there's a really interesting quiz about honeybees that Claire wrote. It's in the live feed at the moment. It was posted yesterday. So I'd encourage you to go check out if you have time. I definitely learned a couple of things from it. But I won't explain what they are because I don't want to spoil that for you. Yes, just looping back to the Naturespace challenge, you can probably see me sweating. This is maybe not the ideal weather for it because it is slightly too warm, but it is an incredible thing to go out and do, both for your own enjoyment and discovering things. Like I've just discovered that massive colony of woodlice that I had no idea was quite that large. Very exciting to see all the babies, that will hopefully go on to feed some of the things like the visiting blackbirds that we get here a lot, and also blue tits, house sparrows, those sorts of things, and robins. Robins are a really key insectivore. Sorry, going off on a tangent. And also by recording those things and resubmitting them into Naturehood, you're part of that wider citizen science, is what we call it. But that wider research project that's trying to help British wildlife on a much broader scale. And you can be a really important part of that. It's also fun to post about what you found in the live feed, ask questions, comments. What is this species? Claire's really good at identifying those. And yes, so I hope to see you all in the live feed very soon. Enjoy the rest of this very sunny day. I'm going to go have a large glass of water. Yes, thanks. See you all soon.